everybody and welcome back to Frankie's Aquatics right here on the wonderful platform that is YouTube. Today's video is going to be axolotl myths that are simply not true, because let's be honest, there's many of them going around the internet. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish what is actual fact and what is actually false. So today I thought I'd bring you a video which kind of breaks down the myths that I commonly get asked and commonly see on the internet that are simply not true. Now, some of you may have noticed that has been a bit of a switch about. I'm in a little bit of a different environment today. I haven't been kicked out by the wife, not yet, but I have moved all my aquatics from the upstairs to the downstairs. So I was recently picking up a large axolotl tank for my males and my females to go separately. My females to go separately. So that involved obviously adding more tanks and obviously progressing and keep moving forward with Frankie's Aquatics. So I went to my favourite aquatic store of all. And I went to my favourite aquatic store of all, and that is Wharf Aquatics in Pinxton, Nottingham. And I asked a little bit of advice. I said, right, as things currently stand, I currently have an aquarium rack in my bedroom. Obviously, it's packing quite a bit of weight, much like myself. Is it safe to stay in my bedroom, or would you reckon I should bring it downstairs to be more safe? Because the last thing I wanted was to wake up one morning to find my axolotls took a bit of a detour and ended up in the kitchen. I wouldn't fancy the chances. It's quite the jump, to be fair. It's quite the jump. So on their advice, they kind of advise it'd probably be best to bring it downstairs, make the floor more structurally sound by putting more slats in to support the weight. And I have since done that. So me and the wife last week have been working hard at transferring my reptiles, which used to be just behind me here, because I do keep reptiles too, moving them upstairs. So they're up there now somewhere, hello. And then moving my aquatics that were once upstairs, downstairs, and then also doubling up. So there's an empty shelf here right now, but in the coming months that will be occupied by another tank. It's going to be a breeder's rack. There's going to be two large tanks at the very bottom, which are going to include the males in one tank and the females in another. Just above that, it's going to be two breeder tanks, where obviously the male and the females get their nookie on together. And then directly above that, it's going to be the babies that are going to be going to the new homes, waiting on their new homes. It's all up here, you see. Not just a hairy face, not just a hairy face. So here's the new system. It's a double rack, now supported along the floor for the weight. As you can see, all my tanks are in one place, which is really good. And then all my photos and images that people have done for me are on the top. So it looks really nice. I'm happy with it. I'm just not quite used to not waking up next to these little guys in the morning. I do miss the faces. So we'll take a quick look a little bit closer at the tanks. So this is my new tank. This has Pixel and Flick inside of it, as I'll show you. There's good old Pixel. Hello, baby girl. How you doing? How you doing, Bubby? And there's Daddy over there. That is Flick with the funny foot I was telling you about. Look, can you see? This is right foot. Look, that's how it should be. And that's how it is. Oh, it is liquid stubby. So this is their new tank. Air filter, sponge filter, slidey glass lids at the top to make my life a lot more smoother and a lot more easier. This was custom made by Wharf Aquatics. This is what I'm saying about these guys. They pretty much cover every avenue, do everything. So obviously I've got the air filter switched off at the moment because of the noise. But yeah, so there we go, that's it. Custom made tank, which is absolutely made to measure. I love it. And if we go up one, we have Flixel and Buddy up here now in the big tank, which now looks quite dwarfed in comparison to this one. So there we go. There's Flixel. How are we doing, baby? How are we, Mrs. Cutie? Who went a massive poop just before I filmed, so I had to scoop that out really quick. And then over there we've got Buddy. Hello, Buddy. Quite possibly the friendliest little chap I've ever seen. He's so adorable. I love him. So all in all, I'm really happy with it. I do like it. I think it's very nice. I think it's very practical. I'm going to keep the two top shelves empty at the very top. I'm going to put my axolotl collections across the top of there. Anything I can find axolotl related, I'm going to be collecting. But in time, this will become like a very workable station, and it will kind of make more sense to have it down here. But as always, let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. You think it did good? I say just me, it wasn't just me. The wife, Jem, as well, helped out tremendously. And with my dodgy eyes, I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. So thank you very much. Just to confirm, my wife's called Jem, not Jim. I think it's like Jim. Jimmy! Hope you enjoy the new background and the change of things a little bit. The audio might be a little bit ski-whiff in comparison to previous videos. I just need to try things out. I really wish I could click my fingers and show you how I've kind of constructed a tripod today. Because upstairs, I used to plonk my camera on the breeder's rack and I angle it down ever so slightly to capture the hello, welcome to Frankie's Aquatics, whereas now I haven't got that luxury. I literally have nothing in front of me until I made this contraption, which I'll politely add on here. Do you think of that? It's quite the contraption. I wouldn't suggest climbing on it. It's not a climbing frame. It looks a bit dangerous, to be honest, and I'm kind of hoping it'll hold up for the video. So keep your fingers crossed for me. So today's video is titled Axolotl Myths That Are Simply Not True. Because unfortunately, there's many of them out there, and some people contradict one another, and some statements contradict others. So I thought I'd just kind of take the few that I kind of see floating around the most online, and I'd answer them, and I'd kind of like debug them for you. So the first one I see is axolotls are quite aggressive. No, they're not. Not in my understanding anyway. I've kept axolotls for quite some years now, and I've never had any aggression in regards to any axolotl. Maybe the occasional nip mistake when they're feeding, but I tend to feed, if I keep more than one axolotl in a tank, I feed them on separate corners. So for example, I will feed Pixel in the left corner, and once she's took the worm, I'll go over to the right and I'll feed Flick in the right corner. So it's kind of about balance and working out what works best. But no, aggressive to humans, absolutely not. They will mistakenly nip you if they think you're food. But apart from that, they're not aggressive at all. Again, you're going to get the occasional nip of the tail, maybe the odd little toe missing if you don't keep them fed. But I find if you keep the waters right, the water parameters happy, the tank size is adequate, and you feed them regularly and they're not hungry, you will very rarely, if ever, experience massive amounts of aggression from any axolotl. So that's the first myth debugged. So the next one is axolotls can be forced into morphing into salamanders. They can metamorph, Power Rangers. They can metamorph into salamanders. Now, in the very, very extremely rare cases, this can happen. This shouldn't be done by humans. This shouldn't be something that we kind of delve into and try and tweak. Axolotls stay in their baby form, their larvae form for a reason. That's how they're designed to be. Now, there's people that go around believing if you lower the water over time, they will start to look for land and try and like evolve onto the next stage, which is becoming a salamander. This is simply not true. You can do it with chemicals and you can do it with injections, and it has been done in scientific studies, which again is completely out of my domain. That's nothing, I've got no opinion on that whatsoever. But if you do it as a keeper and you believe that lowering the water level and basically forcing the axolotl to either die or find its land and find its feet is a smart way of dealing with things, then I'm sorry, but you're mistakenly wrong. If you do that, if you choose to lower the water levels, you're only going to cause stress to your axolotl. In time, you may cause further illnesses like fungus, lack of appetite, temperatures will be off and unbalanced, I can only assume, with the less water. And you're probably going to cause more harm than good. In the extremely rare cases that axolotls do evolve into a salamander, the truth of the matter is they don't live nearly as long as they do as an axolotl. I think the longest recorded one that lived was, I think it was 4 years after it had morphed from an axolotl into a salamander. It's so confusing. I try to study these things, but I try not to get too involved because there's a lot of upsetting things out there when you look into this topic. So the truth be told, can you force an axolotl into a salamander? You probably can. Should you do it? You should absolutely not. And the next one I see is axolotls pack quite the nasty bite. Now, the rumour mill has it when an axolotl latches you, it will very readily let go of you. From personal experience, I don't think that's true either. I think that axolotls occasionally nip you, but it's almost like you get a clothes peg and just kind of peg it on yourself. It doesn't quite stick to your skin. It kind of like pinches off. It's a bit like that. It's more of a suction and a pull. Doesn't hurt. Very rarely will it break the skin, if ever. It's more of a vacuum effect. It's like, just like latches on. My daughter got nipped by Pixel when I was helping her hand feed Pixel a couple of months ago. And she found it quite funny. She said it quite tickled. And she got her just there. And it left the tiniest little mark ever. I'm not even joking you now. It was minute. Ella was quite proud of it. She's like, look, Pixel did that. But the truth be told, it doesn't hurt. And if they were to nip onto the end of your finger and mistake you for a worm or some sort of food, I think they'll pretty quickly learn that you wasn't food and let you go. I don't think they're going to keep hold of you like a dog with a bone, let's say. I think they're pretty smart enough to realise, well, this isn't going to fit down my gullet, I'll let you go. So if you have got some sort of apprehensive nerves in regards, because I encourage hand feeding personally. I think it's a great way for the owner to bond with the axolotl. I think it's great. I feed all of mine. When they're of a reasonable size and they go on to a bigger foods, I do hand feed all of my babies. I always have done. And I absolutely encourage everybody that I obviously provide axolotls to do the same. So if you have got a little bit of apprehension and you're a bit nervous about doing it and you're frightened about them, because they are quite quick knee-jerk reactions, aren't they, that axolotls do. They tend to come right up and latch onto the food. It's amazing to watch, but if you are a little bit apprehensive of it, don't be, because if you were unlucky enough to get nipped by one, I can assure you it doesn't hurt. So relax, just relax. And the next one is axolotls can grow just about anything, so that means they must be immortal. Unfortunately, as much as I'd love that to be true, it isn't true. Yes, axolotls will regrow limbs, gills, legs, tails. I believe rumour mill has it even the brain can be reformed by the axolotl, which is absolutely incredible when you think about that. You imagine the humans having the ability to do that. You break your arm, don't worry, it will fix itself and it will just regrow. You lose a finger, don't worry, it will just regrow. Could you imagine that? This is why scientists have been baffled, absolutely baffled by axolotls for many, many years. And they're studied very closely in the labs because of that reason, and that reason alone. They have this regenerative gene that they can just regrow fingers, toes, limbs, gills. It's amazing, but unfortunately it doesn't make them immortal. I do believe there's only so many times they will happily regrow that part. For example, my boy Flick, my male breeder, is a wild type. He came to me from my supplier quite in a bad state. I can only assume he was kept with his siblings, and he's obviously picked on quite a lot when they're little. They do get quite nippy when it comes to food. He came missing most of his foot, completely his back foot and leg, and he had quite a torn up tail. Obviously a lot of TLC and a lot of good food and clean water, he did regenerate everything, apart from, I think it's his left arm, from his like wrist area down, what should be a nice 5-fingered hand, he's got little stubby, and he's got a tiny little finger, which is like that. He's got another little finger, which is, it's cute. I love it about him because it makes him different, it makes him unique. But I can only understand, or I can only imagine, that he must have had it nipped on several occasions for it to grow back deformed almost. Although I don't see it as a deformity so much, I see it as part of his little character, and I love him for it. But the truth be told, yes, axolotls are amazing. Yes, they will grow limbs and they will grow gills and all the rest of it, should they lose it. But for one, they really shouldn't be losing it anyway. If you keep them right and keep them fed and happy, and you're keeping them together and not with other sort of species of any kind of aquatic critter, they will do just fine. And just because they do grow back doesn't mean you should be put in a position to have little things nipped off them in order to grow back. And unfortunately, as much as I'd love to say they're immortal, they're actually not. So please just bear that in mind when you're keeping your axolotls. And that's it for today. I've got some very exciting things coming in the near future, which I can't wait to share with you. I'm really hoping you're going to stick around for the ride. So if you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell, because that just alerts you when I upload. And also hit the like button, because that just lets me know that you're enjoying the content that I'm producing. I have several video topics lined up in the making. I'm very excited to launch many of them with you. And again, thank you all for your support. So until next week, ta-ta for now. I'm going. Next, I'm getting used to this, you know. It's all this downstairs malarkey. Yeah, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.